It's a Monday. We got some news. Let's just jump into it. For starters, I got a bit of a update on some little projects I've been kind of working on. Spotmatic SP2. I kind of want to do a video on the SP2s in general because I think they're really interesting cameras. Very underrated. Huge step up, I think, from the SP. It's still pretty cool. Anyway, this one's bottom plate was like completely knackered by corrosion and stuff, so I hit it pretty hard with some sanding just to get it down, because it was like, I don't really like cameras that have things growing on it. And then I have this like new painting technique kind of thing that I tried to work on, and I kind of restored some of the original color, and the more I'm looking at it, the more it kind of looks like shit. But so I guess I'm not gonna really, I wouldn't say it's an update, but I can do like some small spot stuff, like spot painting, but I feel like with this big bottom plate, it ends up just looking not great. So I guess it was kind of a moot point there, but that's something that I'm fucking gonna try to start working on more of, bettering that skill, because ultimately I have this, which is a be gentle, be kind about the lettering, but it's a K1000 that I painted, and I did this like years ago, and honestly I think it looks relatively okay. There's kind of like a matte finish on the front plate, and the bottom plate also is kind of a bit more matted there. I went with like a glossy finish on the top, and you can kind of see like it looks not awesome, but it looks fine. And then I tried filling in the lettering, and that's where I really got bungled up. But I'm going to make another video on this maybe this week or maybe next week. But anyway, that's a thing. A lot of videos planned for this week. A few repair things, a few talk through things, a few discussions about film, cameras, all that good stuff. And yeah, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Also, feel free to join the channel if you so choose. I've got some videos that I'm dropping on there as well, some early access videos. I'm going to be doing some like Q&A stuff. So if you want to like ask specific questions that I answer in later videos, if you have any opinions on what I should do videos on, join the channel, all that stuff. I appreciate the support. A couple members that I want to point out here. Appreciate you guys for making this video and other videos possible. Join the Bronco Buddies, as I'm calling it, and appreciate it as always. Got a few topics we're just going to kind of burn through real quick. I want to talk again about the Pentax half-frame camera. This is probably the last time I'll be making a video about it until I get my hands on the camera. I did pre-order one. It should be getting in at some point. I did get some like really solid feedback from a lot of folks, which I appreciate. A couple of things though. First, I did a community post where I was like, here are some options. What do you think? We are like 30 and 30 at excited for Pentax 17 and 30% for wait for the full frame. And then 28% I'd rather buy an older camera, 8% rather have the mint Rollei, and 4% couldn't care less. Which I think is like a fairly decent spread. There's kind of like a three-way tie there, I would say. I mean, 220 people, that's not everybody, obviously, but that's like a good, I would say a good sample size here. The overall consensus was excitement for the new thing, skepticism, and hopefulness that it leads to something more. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. A few comments I saw, not on my video, but just in general, where people like, I don't understand how anyone can be critical of this. This is amazing, and like this is the best thing ever, and blah 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 blah. As a inherently critical person, like I just have a hard time just accepting things as like outright good or outright bad. I just think that there's so much gray area to discuss. I find that intriguing. I find that interesting. And I think that like on one hand, you can say, oh, this thing is good for these reasons, but on the flip side, it's bad for these reasons. I think that's a fair thing to say. It's not like, this is garbage, it sucks. I was trying to acknowledge that it's not necessarily for me, but also I'm just a fucking guy. Like, I'm just a dude. Like, I'm not thinking that Pentax is doing R&D on, like, my opinion alone. They're looking at the wide scope of things. And given my perception of the wide scope of things, I was skeptical as to what they were saying that I wasn't, because I've not heard a big clamor for half frame. I've not heard, like, all of these things that people are looking for in the camera that they put together. That, mixed with the conversations I've had with other film photographers and such of that nature, a lot of people are kind of like, it's cool, I guess, but I'd rather just have something completely different, which is fine. The real, like, winners and losers of this whole Pentax thing, I would say a huge winner here is me and, like, every other creator out there, because, like, the metrics on my videos where I did discuss it just, like, shot up. Like, people were really interested in it. Like, the audience has really appreciated the news and the opinions and the takes and all that stuff, the first impressions, all of that, which I think is great. I honestly think it's fantastic, and I'm appreciative for that. Like, stimulating the film photography community with such huge news, even again if it's not something I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is perfect for me, like, just stimulating that audience with, like, hey, this is a new thing, is great. And you see it anytime, like, new film comes out, anytime, like, new information is teased on, a new project, like, that just grows everybody. And what is it, the high tides raise all ships. So fantastic for that, and I'm super appreciative. Like, that's great. Like, it helped out my channel. I appreciate it, so thank you. The losers, I would say, in this situation would be, I still have to think it'd be a lot of the film photography community. I mean, based only off of the poll that I did, there's a lot of people that are looking for full frame stuff. At least a third of the people are looking for a full frame option. Obviously, Pentax is going to build to that point, and based on what I've read, apparently that they've completely sold out of their stock that they had in mind. Like, they've completely blown past whatever expectations they had. So my initial thought of, like, I hope that they sell enough to build to the next thing. It sounds like they're not having a hard time selling them, but that's based purely off of, like, the hype of a new camera. I hope it's a prolonged success to the point where, like, people get the camera and they still really like it, to the point where they're recommending other people to get it, and it has this prolonged effect of, like, people still buying it a year or 2 or 5 years down the road, enough to push Pentax financially to research a new camera, one of a full frame model. So I think that's kind of something to bear in mind there. There's also, obviously, a large percentage of people that are looking for an older camera, and I totally get that. Recently, I picked up my, this guy. This is a Canon Demi EE-17. I got 2 of these for, I think, like $50 or 45 or whatever, a year ago, I think? A while ago. Not in the best condition, but, it's a fucking film camera. It's a half-frame film camera. It's incredibly compact. I think it's one of the more stylish-looking cameras that was ever made. Like, it just looks cool. It looks kind of cute. It's really, really small. It's not as small as the EE-28 that I also have, but this thing is super small. I looked online, and in kind of mint condition, these are going for like $150, in that range, $160, maybe $200, maybe $225, but still, that's half the price at most of the new camera. And granted, yes, these are older and they don't have like all of the automatic features, but it does have an auto mode for your exposure. It does have, I guess it's a shutter speed priority setting, and you have zone focusing on here, which is similar to that. You have a hot shoot, which is kind of nice, so you could put a flash on here. Has a really, in my opinion, very nice advanced lever, which I kind of talked about in the other video. People are still looking for this, and that's completely fine too. I think that criticism is important. I think skepticism is important. I think having a dialogue about these things is important. The other thing that I kind of want to touch on is I was really pushing to get like early access to one of these cameras, to talk about it, to dive into the minutia of it, and I didn't. And there was like a tinge of bummer, but at the end of the day, I totally get it. I don't have the biggest following. Yeah, I post like a bunch of Pentax stuff, but like, bleh, who cares? That didn't really affect my decision making too much. That didn't really affect my opinion too much. I still am getting the camera. I'm still supporting them. I think that's the other big thing too. Like, I'm critical, but I'm still supportive. And I think me just getting on here and talking about different points of view shouldn't negatively impact any business prospects, any sales figures or whatever. I think it's just important as a consumer when you're going into like a pretty large financial decision to have as many opinions as you can at the end of the day. With the amount of money that you're spending on the new Pentax 17, you could buy 10 H35s, you could buy like 3 or 4 Demi E17s, you could buy an E17 and shoot like a year's worth of film and get it all developed and still not spend as much on the Pentax 17. So I think that it's very fair to say, here are the facts, let's discuss, let's debate, and go from there. Oh, and also real quick, someone was like, I don't understand why people like the K1000 so much. It's just a camera. And like, that's literally why people like it so much. It is just a camera. Like, it is just a thing that works. There's nothing like too flashy about it. It is just a functioning, perfect camera to get into. And I think that like kind of bothered me a lot because it was like, well, it's just, there's better cameras out there. Yes, there are. Like, there completely are. But to me, the K1000 is just the pure idea of a camera is what the K1000 is. Like, it is just the basics, it's the bare bones, it is just a film camera. And I think that's great. I think that's a great thing, just to have this like pure idea of something boiled down, diluted to just the bare minimum, the bare necessities. That's what it is. So to whomever, I don't remember where I saw that comment, I think it might have been on Instagram or something, but like, feel free to have your opinion on that. You can like think that of the OM1, you can think that of the AE1, you can think that of whatever camera you want. But for me personally, especially after working on many K1000s over the years, like, it is just the peak bare minimum film camera, and it's just, I like it a lot. Very biased, but still, I think it's a great camera. But the other point was that somebody had made another comment where it's like, man, Pentax is really not listening to the core audience, which is something I kind of addressed briefly, where it's like they're clearly trying to attract this other kind of audience that currently is not super into film cameras, and trying to bring them into this ecosystem via this camera. And I kind of get that a lot, because most of the people that were like, man, I'm excited for Pentax camera. Great, I love it. I can't wait for another solid, dependable, reliable full frame thing to put my K-mount lenses on and shoot with that. That was kind of a little bit of the tinge of disappointment that obviously this came out a while ago that it was going to be a half frame thing, and it came out because of social media it's going to be a half frame thing. So I think that kind of wavered down. But I do think upon seeing the final result, seeing like how automatic everything is and the lack of control that the user will have over the camera, kind of led a lot of other people to further disappointment of like, oh, they're really not paying attention to like what we, the fans, want. And that might be just a very vocal minority of fans, but still I think it's very interesting that like, that's kind of a feeling I had, where it's like, who's really wanting this? Pentax knows a lot more than I do, because they spent all this money doing, research and development for this product. So that's great. But I do still think that, like, again, criticism should be allowed. It should be invited. I don't think that anything is uniquely great or terrible. I think everything kind of exists in the middle, and I think discussing that just leads to better products, leads to more informed consumers, and leads to overall a better experience for producers, manufacturers, consumers, users, all that good stuff. So that's it. I'm done. Next point, we have the Mint Rollei 35. Japan Camera Hunter posted some stuff on Instagram regarding the camera, and I screenshotted it because I wanted to talk about it. And honestly, we got some pictures. I'll put them up on the screen here. I like it. I think it's great. I think it's a nice little compact full frame camera. I saw something where they were talking about the price, and I think the price is going to be kind of around the $500 range. I don't really remember what it was exactly, but like, if it comes up, I'll try to put it up here as well, which I think is, relatively fair. On the back here, you can see it has a very similar loading functionality to the older Rollei, and I don't know, I think that's nice. I really like seeing these through lines of consistency in design. Like, Mint clearly is like, this is a design that people have liked for the past however many years this camera was produced, so like, let's just stick with it. I think that's great. The Rollei 35 has been around since the dawn of time. I'm pretty sure it was like one of the first cave paintings done was of the Mint Rollei. Like, it's a timeless design. People love it. And I think that Mint's taking this and just like keeping everything the same, just gonna add an autofocus system. And so far as I can tell, that's not impacted the size of it at all. Looks like we have the same kind of zone focus window there, and then also have their little autofocus deal over the top of the lens. I think the self-timer button looks really nice, really subdued. There's like a teeny tiny little flash bar thing, which is kind of cool. I'm really stoked that they kept like the old school memo dial for like what kind of film you have in there, and all of the dials look the same. It all looks the same. The advance lever looks the same. The rewind looks the same. The bottom plate looks the same. And all of those little things, all these little attention details, that's what really excites me, because I like the little stuff like that. I like the little, hey, you know, like the little callbacks to, you know, past designs, just the little flares of, hey, I know you like this thing, but like, check this out. Like, look what we did here. Like, I just think that's so cool. So I'm excited. I am excited about that. I think it's coming out in like a month or so, maybe. I know a lot of people are probably blowing their wad on the Pentax 17, but if you're looking for a full frame camera system, I would check out the Mint 35 AF. I think it's really cool. And last bit of news, this is completely inconsequential, so if you don't really like things that aren't film photography, feel free to click off now. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. Now that the real ones are here, what about that Robert Whitaker win? Oh my goodness. So basically, late replacement, Ikram Aliskerov subs in for Hamzat Chimaev to headline the first event in Saudi Arabia against Robert Whitaker. Say what you will about sports washing and all of these things, it was a very big event. A lot of things fell through. A lot of the fights on the card were like not that great, if I'm gonna be completely honest. Johnny Walker looked like a goofball. Volkan Ozdemir looked really good. Fun fact, I got in a very lengthy discussion about the fact that Volkan Ozdemir had a watch tattoo on his wrist. I just was completely convinced it was my Bernstein Bears moment. And I was like, he has a watch and he does this when he knocks people out. So he has like a watch tattoo. Like, I just, in my heart of hearts, completely Mandela'd myself into thinking that that was the case. It was a complete, like an Ozdemir effect, almost, coining that term. Anyway, he looked great. Alexander Volkov looked phenomenal. He's one of my favorite heavyweights out there because he's not like a slobber knocker, just like fat guy at the barroom brawl. And then, Bobby Knuckles coming in here looking clean with those leg kicks and that like uppercut up against the cage. Like, oh my god. And he has one of the best high kicks I've ever seen in any sport ever. Absolutely adored it. I thought it was great. And then at the end when he's just like pointing at the camera, iconic. Love to see it. What a great fighter. What a great guy. Anyway, that's all. Really stoked about that. UFC 303 this weekend, so I'm excited about that. Anyway, thank you for watching. Appreciate it as always. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and catch you on the next one.